Many Israelis believe that there are no longer Palestinian laborers in Israel, but that is a mistake. Every day, or rather every night, thousands of Palestinians leave their homes in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank for another day's work in Israel. In the past, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians found work in Israel. They worked in construction, agriculture, and cleaning, and brought millions of shekels a day into the shaky Palestinian economy. Some Palestinian laborers have worked in Israel for decades, speak fluent Hebrew, and understand the Israeli mentality well. But in the last 4 years, the number of Palestinian workers has decreased dramatically. The reason? The violent conflict, mainly the wave of terrorist attacks that have hit Israeli cities. Terrorist organizations took advantage of easy entrance to Israel in order to carry out attacks, and often did so at the expense of veteran laborers who only wanted to work and earn their families' bread. The terrorists forced the laborers into a dilemma, threatening to harm them or their families if they refused to smuggle weapons or suspects. The results were immediate. Israel was forced to drastically reduce the number of Palestinian workers permitted to enter the country. The police ran extensive searches for illegal residents who were deported to the territories, and the IDF regularly patrols to ensure that no laborers sneak back into Israel. The security fence, erected to prevent terrorism, curtailed the free movement of workers from the territories into Israel, and the only remaining way to cross over the Green Line was via checkpoints. Workers and shipments are cleared at 3 checkpoints in the Gaza Strip, at Erez, Karni, and Sufa. 24 additional checkpoints operate in the West Bank. Anyone who wants to enter Israel is required to obtain a special permit and must meet stringent criteria. Be at least 35 years old, married and a father, with no past or present involvement in terrorist activity. The assumption is that people with families are less likely to be involved in terrorism and only want to support their families. Today, more than 10,000 Palestinian laborers work in Israel, and thousands more are merchants and business people. The money they earn keeps the unstable Palestinian economy, mainly in the Gaza Strip, going. For these laborers, work in Israel saves them from poverty and hunger. Considering the harsh economic reality in the Gaza Strip, after 4 years of violent conflict, it is no wonder that many others have become desperate and request entrance to Israel in order to work and support their families. Fear of terrorist attacks makes it difficult for Israel to grant their request, but attempts are being made to ease Palestinian suffering. Despite the attacks, and despite discontinued relations with the Palestinian Authority, Israel continues to send raw materials and foodstuffs to Gaza, and to provide the Gaza Strip with electricity, water, fuel, and gas. This policy, likewise maintained in the West Bank, has earned Israel international commendation, especially given the fact that terrorist organizations are careful to exploit humanitarian activity in order to carry out acts of terrorism.